This is the moment two corrections officers are attacked. The attack left both officers bloody, one stabbed several times. The United States prison system is home to some of the most dangerous and infamous criminals in history. These men have committed acts so heinous and orchestrated crimes so large in scale that their mere presence behind bars commands fear and respect from both inmates and prison staff alike. From ruthless drug lords who built billion-dollar empires to gang leaders who orchestrated murders from their prison cells, the stories of these individuals read like scenes from a Hollywood thriller. Stay with us as we dive deep into the lives of some of the most feared men in the U.S. prison system, a rogues gallery of mafia hitmen, drug lords, gang leaders, and more. If you thought you knew what fear looked like, wait until you hear about these men. Freddy Guaz, the mafia hitman who allegedly killed Whitey Bulger, was a notorious mafia enforcer from Springfield, Massachusetts. Guaz built his fearsome reputation working for organized crime syndicates in New England. Known for his ruthlessness and unwavering loyalty to the Code of Silence, Guaz refused to cooperate with authorities, a principle he upheld even after his arrest and conviction for multiple murders. In 2018, Guaz made headlines again when Whitey Bulger, the infamous Boston gangster and FBI informant, was brutally killed within hours of being transferred to Hazleton Federal Prison in West Virginia. Bulger's murder shocked the nation, as he had been one of the most infamous criminals in American history, leading a reign of terror that spanned decades. Authorities quickly suspected Guaz, who was housed in the same prison and reportedly despised rats like Bulger. The murder was carried out with a level of brutality that reflected Guaz's reputation. Bulger, confined to a wheelchair at the time, was beaten to death with a padlock stuffed in a sock, a method that sent a clear message about the dangers of breaking the mob code. Although Guaz has never admitted involvement, his suspected role in Bulger's death cemented his legacy as one of the most feared men in the U.S. prison system. If you thought Freddy Guaz was chilling, wait until we explore the story of Oteneal, a Colombian drug lord whose reign of terror spanned continents. Dairo Antonio Uja, better known as Oteneal, was the leader of the infamous Gulf Clan, Colombia's largest and most powerful drug cartel. For years, Oteneal ruled with an iron fist, overseeing a vast drug trafficking empire that spanned continents. His cartel was responsible for smuggling tons of cocaine into the United States, along with countless acts of violence, including assassinations, kidnappings, and even massacres. Despite a $5 million bounty placed on his head by the U.S. government, Oteneal managed to evade capture for years, using a sophisticated network of informants, safe houses, and corrupt officials. His arrest in 2021 marked the end of a years-long manhunt that involved military operations and the cooperation of multiple international agencies. Today, Oteneal is serving a 45-year sentence in a U.S. prison, where his notoriety has followed him. His name still commands fear among both inmates and guards, as he was known for orchestrating killings even from behind bars. Oteneal's capture and imprisonment have been hailed as a victory in the war on drugs, but his legacy as one of the most feared criminals in recent history endures. But if you think Oteneal's story is intense, just wait until we revisit the legend of El Chapo, the drug lord whose escape stories are the stuff of legend. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the mastermind of prison escapes, was the former leader of the Sinaloa cartel and one of the most infamous drug lords in history. Known for his vast cocaine empire and staggering wealth, El Chapo's story is filled with audacious escapes, violent retributions, and cunning strategies that earned him international notoriety. His criminal empire made him one of the most wanted men in the world, but it was his prison escapes that solidified his legendary status. In 2001, he escaped from a maximum security prison in Mexico by bribing guards and hiding in a laundry cart. His second escape, in 2015, was even more daring. He vanished through a mile-long tunnel dug directly into his cell, complete with lighting and ventilation. Despite his eventual extradition to the US in 2017 and subsequent life sentence in ADX Florence, the most secure federal prison in America, El Chapo's legacy as one of the most dangerous men in the world remains. His ability to manipulate people, evade authorities, and inspire fear makes him a figure of both fascination and terror. But El Chapo's story pales in comparison to the ruthless tactics of Carbone Savage, a man whose reign of terror targeted not just enemies, but their families. Carbone Savage, a Philadelphia drug lord, is one of the most feared criminals ever convicted in the U.S. justice system. Savage's drug empire dominated the streets of Philadelphia, but it was his ruthless retaliations against anyone who crossed him that earned him his terrifying reputation. His most infamous crime was the 2004 arson attack that killed 6 people, including 4 children. The victims were relatives of a federal witness who had agreed to testify against him. Savage ordered the firebombing to send a message: cooperation with authorities would result in the ultimate price. Even from prison, Savage continued to orchestrate murders and maintain control over his drug empire, proving that incarceration did little to diminish his influence. In 2013, he was sentenced to death, becoming the first person in nearly 2 decades to receive such a sentence in Pennsylvania. If you thought Carbone Savage was ruthless, wait until you hear about Barry Mills, the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, who turned a prison gang into a deadly criminal empire. Barry Mills, the notorious leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, transformed the gang from a small prison clique into one of the most feared and violent organizations within the U.S. prison system. Known for his intelligence and strategic thinking, Mills used violence as a tool to consolidate power, enforce loyalty, and eliminate competition. Under his leadership, the Aryan Brotherhood became involved in drug trafficking, extortion, and contract killings both inside and outside prison walls. Mills's ability to command loyalty and instill fear made him a near-mythical figure among inmates. He was eventually convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to life without parole. Even in isolation, his influence persisted, proving that his control over the Aryan Brotherhood was absolute. But if you thought Mills was terrifying, just wait until you learn about Luis Felipe, the founder of the Latin Kings, who continued to run his empire from solitary confinement. Luis Felipe, also known as King Blood, founded the New York chapter of the Latin Kings, one of the largest and most powerful street gangs in the United States. Felipe built the gang into an empire through strict rules, a hierarchical structure, and brutal enforcement of loyalty. His charisma and organizational skills made the Latin Kings a dominant force in the drug trade and other criminal enterprises. In 1995,
Felipe was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to life in prison. Despite being confined to solitary confinement at ADX Florence, Felipe continued to issue orders to his gang using coded letters and trusted intermediaries. He maintained control over the Latin Kings' operations, proving that isolation wasn't enough to curb his influence. Felipe's ability to rule from solitary confinement drew widespread attention, leading to changes in how high-risk inmates are monitored. However, his legacy as a ruthless leader whose influence extended far beyond prison walls remains unshaken. But if you thought Luis Felipe's story of remote control was chilling, wait until you hear about Larry Hoover, whose criminal empire continues to impact communities even today. Larry Hoover, the founder of the Gangster Disciples, is a figure whose name still resonates in the streets of Chicago and beyond. Starting as a small-time gang leader, Hoover built the Gangster Disciples into one of the most powerful and feared street gangs in the United States, with operations extending into multiple states and lucrative involvement in drug trafficking. Hoover's leadership was marked by a blend of charisma and ruthlessness. He often portrayed himself as a community advocate, even pushing for political reforms, but behind this facade, he orchestrated a violent criminal empire. In 1997, Hoover was convicted of continuing to run the gangster disciples from prison and sentenced to 6 life terms. Despite being held in the Supermax ADX Florence facility, Hoover's name remains synonymous with gang power and influence. His story is a stark reminder of how deeply criminal networks can embed themselves in society. If you're fascinated by Hoover's enduring legacy, wait until you hear about Cesar Shadow Morales, the infamous accomplice who shaped the US-Mexico drug trade. Cesar Shadow Morales, a former high-ranking lieutenant in the Sinaloa cartel, carved out a notorious reputation even while incarcerated in the US federal prison system. Known for his cunning intelligence and ruthless tactics, Morales was a key player in one of the most dangerous drug trafficking organizations in the world. Despite being behind bars, his influence extended far beyond the prison walls, orchestrating cartel operations with precision and brutality. Arrested in 2009 and sentenced to life for drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder, Morales was transferred to one of the highest security federal facilities in the US. However, this did little to curtail his activity. Using encrypted communications, corrupt prison guards, and a network of loyal operatives on the outside, Morales maintained a steady flow of narcotics into the US while overseeing violent reprisals against rival cartels and informants. One of the most chilling incidents linked to Morales involved the assassination of a federal witness who had agreed to testify against cartel members. From his prison cell, Morales allegedly ordered the killing, which was carried out with brutal efficiency. This act sent shockwaves through the legal and law enforcement communities, highlighting the dangerous reach of cartel operatives even from within the confines of a maximum security facility. Morales was also known for his psychological manipulation. He reportedly turned inmates into loyal followers by exploiting their vulnerabilities, offering protection or financial incentives to their families. These recruits, once under his control, acted as messengers, smugglers, or enforcers within the prison system. In 2017, Morales was placed in permanent solitary confinement after authorities intercepted a series of encrypted messages that revealed plans for a large-scale prison riot aimed at overwhelming guards and allowing key cartel members to escape. The plot underscored Morales' relentless ambition and his ability to inspire loyalty even under the most restrictive conditions. The case of Cesar Shadow Morales highlights the ongoing struggle of U.S. authorities to contain the influence of international cartels within the prison system. It serves as a chilling reminder of how organized crime can infiltrate even the most secure institutions, blurring the lines between imprisonment and operational freedom. But Morales' chilling legacy pales in comparison to the systematic brutality of Thomas Silverstein, the most isolated prisoner in U.S. history. Thomas Silverstein, once a high-ranking member of the Aryan Brotherhood, is infamous for being one of the most feared and isolated prisoners in U.S. history. Silverstein earned his notoriety in 1983 when he killed corrections officer Merle Cutts at the United States Penitentiary in Marion, Illinois. This act, committed in broad daylight, led to Silverstein being placed in permanent solitary confinement. Silverstein had already been convicted of multiple murders, including those of rival gang members. However, it was the killing of Cutts that marked a turning point in U.S. prison policy. Authorities feared Silverstein so much that they built a special no-human contact cell for him, where he remained for over 30 years. His case has been cited as an extreme example of the psychological toll of long-term solitary confinement. Silverstein's life represents the extreme measures the U.S. prison system takes to neutralize violent offenders, offering a chilling insight into the lengths institutions will go to contain individuals deemed too dangerous to interact with others. If you think Silverstein's isolation was extreme, wait until you hear about the cold-blooded brutality of Glenn Ford, one of the most feared prison figures of the 21st century.